Right, so you guys wanted to know just how Trump managed to pull this off in 2024.
A second term after losing a re-election bid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
It's back from the dead level stuff here, and we're talking serious Grover Cleveland territory.
Yeah.
But with, way more Twitter and probably a lot less mustache wax.
And probably fewer mustaches in general, period. But I think what's really fascinating here is how much this resonates with a certain segment of America. They're not just looking back at the past with rose-colored glasses.
Right.
It's more than just nostalgia. It's this longing for what they see as a simpler time when America was, quote, great.
Yeah, great if you kind of ignore,
Right, if you kind of gloss over some of
all the not-so-great parts.
The details.
But let's be real for a second. The fallout from this election is still, shaking everyone up. Late-night hosts are freaking out. Political analysts are scrambling for answers.
And I'm guessing a lot of you listening are thinking, did I accidentally walk into an alternate dimension or something?
It's understandable. It's definitely shaken up a lot of assumptions about American voters.
Yeah.
But to really get what happened, we need to go deeper than just the surface level.
Okay, so let's go deep. First up, the numbers.
Okay.
Trump didn't just win this thing. He crushed it.
He did.
We're talking 292 electoral votes to Harris's 224. And he even took the popular vote this time. Not exactly what those polls were predicting.
Nope. Not at all. And what's even more interesting, I think, is how the demographics shook out. Trump actually exceeded expectations in almost every category.
Really?
Yeah. We saw some wild swings, like take Apopka County, Florida, for example. This is a place with a huge Latino population, and they swung hard for Trump, something like a 15% increase compared to 2020.
Wow. Yeah, the Pod Save America guys were losing it about that one. They called it like a canary in the coal mine, right?
Yeah.
Like a sign that things were about to get really weird.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Florida either.
Right.
Remember those exit polls?
Yeah.
75% of voters said they were getting hammered by the economy.
Yeah.
Like moderate to severe economic hardship because of inflation.
Yeah.
75%.
That's a huge chunk of people who are hurting.
And that's a key point. All that economic anxiety, all fueled by the post-pandemic inflation.
Right.
That played a huge role in pushing people towards Trump. And honestly, this isn't just an American thing.
Yeah.
It's a global trend. People are unhappy and they're looking to blame someone.
Yeah.
In this case, it was Biden, whose approval rating was tanking, like around 40%
Yeah.
going into the election.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for disaster for any incumbent.
Right. So you've got this struggling economy. People are looking for someone to blame. And then, boom, Kamala Harris gets thrown into the race with, 107 days left to campaign.
Oh, my goodness.
That's basically like trying to cram for a final exam you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, talk about a challenge.
Yeah.
And to her credit, she did try to connect with voters and address their concerns about the economy.
Yeah. But honestly, it was just too little too late. The political climate was just too much to overcome.
Yeah. Okay, so can we talk about the late night reactions for a second? Because honestly, some of them were pretty hilarious.
I know. I think we all needed a laugh after that election.
Like Colbert basically had an on-air meltdown, joking about building a bunker and just hiding out until 2028.
I know. Remember when he said he wanted to call Jimmy Carter and beg him to say it was all just a bad dream?
Yeah, that was gold. And then there was Kimmel talking about packing his bags for Mexico. Classic.
Absolutely classic.
But it wasn't all doom and gloom. They also found ways to laugh at how absurd the whole thing was. Like Kimmel did this unscientific poll on the street, and a surprising number of people actually thought Biden was still on the ballot.
I can't believe that. It makes you wonder, right? And then there was that spike in Google searches for, did Joe Biden drop out?
Oh, yeah. What was up with that?
It's kind of wild. Apparently, a good chunk of those searches came from an IP address that might actually belong to Biden himself.
Yeah. Wait, are you serious? Biden was Googling himself to see if he dropped out of the race.
It seems that way.
Okay, that's actually pretty funny.
It is. But it also makes you think about the role misinformation plays in all this.
Yeah, and how aware voters actually are.
Absolutely. We need to understand how these stories spread and how they influence people. It's a crucial part of the puzzle.
For sure. And then you've got Seth Meyers, always the voice of reason, already speculating about Trump and Elon Musk teaming up.
Oh, right, like some kind of power couple.
Exactly. He was talking about how they could reshape the whole American landscape.
That's where things get really interesting. We're not just talking about politics anymore.
Right.
We're talking about potentially reshaping social and economic forces. It raises some pretty big questions about what American democracy will even look like in the future.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's a pretty crazy image, right? Trump and Musk calling the shots. It's like, are we all just along for the ride on this crazy train?
Yeah. And judging by his victory speech, this train might be headed straight off the rails.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly a detailed policy plan.
No.
It felt more like, a best of Trump rally. A bunch of vague promises, a few random stories, and just enough red meat to keep his base fired up for another 4 years.
I think that lack of specifics on policy is what's really worrying people.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell what he's actually going to focus on.
Right. Same thing we saw during his first term.
Exactly.
Remember all that talk about beautiful, clean coal?
Oh, yeah.
And how he was going to build the wall like it was a Lego set.
It's more like a reality show than an actual president.
Totally. And then there was that weird shout out to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Promising him some kind of platform to explore some things about vaccines.
That was definitely a head scratcher.
Yeah, an understatement.
It's those moments, when you can't tell what's real and well, Trump being Trump. That's what makes this second term feel so unpredictable and maybe a little scary.
For sure. And speaking of scary, the late night guys were not holding back.
No, they weren't.
Myers was practically begging Trump to prove him wrong. But he also pointed out some pretty unsettling promises, like mass deportations,
right,
going after his political enemies, even talking about shutting down entire government agencies.
It's not just about the jokes, Right. It reflects a real fear that we're heading back to the chaos of his first term. Even people who worked in the Obama administration are saying they're worried.
So are we all doomed? Is this the time to start stocking up on canned food and building a bunker?
Not necessarily. I mean, the American system is pretty complex.
Yeah.
There are checks and balances in place, and people have always resisted policies they thought were wrong.
Okay, so maybe there's some hope. I mean, those abortion rights referendums passed in Nevada, Arizona, and Missouri.
Right.
Even with Trump on the ballot. So maybe that shows voters are willing to push back on some things, even if they support him overall.
It's a good point. It shows that things aren't always black and white. There are a lot of different factors at play here.
Like Myers said, justice doesn't just happen because we want it to. Democracy isn't a spectator sport. We can't just sit around and wait for things to get better.
Exactly. We have to get involved, stay engaged, and hold our leaders accountable. We can't afford to be passive, especially now.
So what can we actually do? It's easy to feel overwhelmed, like nothing we do matters. Where do we even start? I mean, it's easy to just throw your hands up and say, what's the point, right? Like, is there any way to stop this train before it goes completely off the rails?
I get it. It's easy to get caught up in all the doom and gloom, especially when you've got late-night comedians making jokes about building bunkers.
Yeah.
But you have to remember, history's full of examples where things seemed impossible and then people came together and actually made a difference.
But wasn't that like a different time?
Yeah.
Things feel so much more divided now. It's like we're all speaking different languages, living in totally different realities.
That's true. But even back then, there were still moments of unity where people with completely different views found common ground and worked together to make things better. Think about the civil rights movement, or the fight for women's suffrage, or even like the environmental movement. Change doesn't always happen in a straight line. It's messy, there are setbacks.
Yeah.
But it's still possible.
Okay, so let's say I buy that. What can we actually do? Like, short of becoming a full-time activist or, moving to Canada, are there any real steps we can take?
Well, I think, first and foremost, you can't underestimate the power of staying informed and staying involved. And that means going beyond just reading headlines. You got to dig deeper into the issues, really understand what's going on.
So no more doom scrolling on Twitter.
Exactly.
No more getting riled up by every crazy thing Trump tweets.
It's about being selective with the information you consume. Think critically about it. Look at things from different angles.
Right.
And once you feel like you've got a good grasp on things, then you can start taking action, That might mean reaching out to your elected officials or supporting organizations that are doing work you believe in, or even just having those tough conversations with friends and family who see things differently than you do.
Oh, man. Those conversations can be rough, though.
I know.
It feels like everyone's on edge, like ready to fight anyone who disagrees with them.
I hear you. But those hard conversations are exactly where we need to start bridging the divides.
Yeah.
It's about listening to each other, trying to understand where the other person is coming from, even if you don't agree with them.
Right.
You know?
So inform ourselves, engage with our elected officials, have those tough conversations. Is there anything else we can do to, avoid the whole doomsday scenario?
It might sound cliche, but I really do think hope is important.
Yeah.
Hope is what keeps us going. It's what keeps us fighting for a better future, even when things seem really bleak. And I think it's important to remember history has a funny way of surprising us. Just when we think all is lost, something totally unexpected can happen. Yeah.
A spark ignites, things change direction.
So maybe this isn't the end of the story. Maybe it's just the start of a new chapter 1 where we have to work harder and smarter and never give up on making America better.
Exactly. And that's really the message I want you to take away from this deep dive. Democracy isn't something you just watch from the sidelines. It requires us to be active, to be involved, to believe that together we can create a better future.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this whole election? What are you doing to stay informed and stay involved? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and follow the show for more deep dives into the issues that matter because, like we learned today, the fight for a better tomorrow starts right now.